Hi, everyone. Tuesday, I don't know what day it is. March 18th. Welcome to the House Democratic Caucus. I'm Lori Houghton, represent Essex Junction, House Majority Leader. So I know we are into lunchtime, so we're going to go as fast as we can on some of these items. So we are going to start with Representative Black. I swear I just saw. Right there. And talking about the committee bill that came out that was introduced today and that will be on the floor Wednesday, tomorrow.
Wednesday. So it'll be on the notice calendar tomorrow.
Which is Wednesday. So it'll be on the floor Thursday.
Sorry.
Go for it.
So H 4482, because that has a number now. I just want to say before I even start with this is not a long-term fix. This is not even a medium-term fix. This is granting authority to the Green Mountain Care Board in emergent circumstances when we are faced with the risk of insolvency of a major insurer in our state. It is I'm not going to call it a Band-Aid. I'm going to call it a tourniquet. So essentially what we're doing here is we're allowing the Green Mountain Care Board through their rate setting authority with insurers and their hospital budget review to be able to make changes in allowed amounts, I guess we would say, in how much they can charge insurers during the mid-year when we are faced with an insurance company insolvency. And then second authority we're granting them is the ability to appoint an independent observer into a hospital's budget review to ensure that they're receiving the documentation that they should be doing, that they should be getting in order to make informed decisions around hospital budget review. And that provision, actually, we have a sunset on a 4 years, 4-year sunset for that. So what's that? The vote was 10-01.
Thank you. Carol Lee, Chittenden 18. Is there any thought having general fund stem this crisis in further promotional?
I believe that has been discussed, and essentially that is a lot of money out of the general fund that we don't have.
Yeah, this White from Waitsfield. Thank you for that, Representative Black. Could you clarify the second part of that bill where you were talking about appointing a person to work with the hospitals or so that we're making sure we're getting documentation that is necessary?
Hold on, I'm going to read for you exactly from the bill. I'm sorry, I didn't have time. Okay, so the board only can appoint an independent observer upon finding that a hospital has made material misrepresentation in the information or documents provided to the board, or that a hospital is materially non-compliant with the budget that had been established by the board for that year.
So
was that?
Just to follow up on that question. So we have a situation in our town, Mount Valley Health Center has been named to be closed because of the UVM Health Center cuts. And our local health center was struggling to get and has not been given financial information to understand the financial situation that propels this impending closing. So would this scenario apply to something like a low primary care facility, or is this really at the kind of larger picture?
It's at the larger picture, but in order to keep hospitals within compliance of their budgets, if they find, again, that a material misrepresentation in information or documents were provided, or that they were non-compliant with their budget, then they would be able to appoint an independent observer.
But it's who the Green Mountain Care Board oversees.
Yes, so they oversee the hospital.
I have a question about that piece to Representative Carol from Chittenden. So, for instance, I think that the hospital, UVM Hospital, said it was going to have a certain amount of revenue, and then it increased access to services, and then it had more revenue. So, would that be a material? Do you have a definition of material misrepresentation?
You know, I think it's important to remember that when the Green Mountain Care Board does their hospital budget reviews, they rely upon the information that is being given to them by the hospitals. They then set the health insurers' rates for plans, and they approve the rate increases for the plans. They can only do these two things in concert with each other if the information that they're being given by the hospitals is accurate. So again, I will just say that they have this authority when there is evidence that the information that they have been given is not accurate. It doesn't allow them to do anything. It just allows them to go in and observe.
Great. So due to timing, we're going to move on, but if anyone has additional questions, please come see a member of the committee. Thank you, Melissa. We're going to turn to Evans to talk about H244, an act relating to state contracting standards for advertising.
Yeah. Representative Shea Waters Evans. This is, this act requires advertising budgets to be spent 70% in the state of Vermont. Local news is dying. I know that you have all seen in your where you live. Your papers are closing. The news stations only cover maybe the bigger cities or the bigger things that happen. And over again, studies show that local communities that have local news, that have a connection to reporters who are keeping track and keeping their municipal governments accountable, have higher voter participation. They have lower municipal budgets. These are all great things that we want. But unfortunately, we don't have the support for local news. So this act would simply ask advertising budgets from state departments and agencies, 70%. They do, you know, to varying degrees, they kind of don't keep track of it a lot of the time, but maybe like between 40 and 60, somebody spend their money on a local news sources, which is great. But if that number is 70, I think it really ties into our concept that we have really supported all these years of buying local and supporting local. So if the state of Vermont is hiring an ad agency, let's say, to do an ad campaign for the health department, they should be using a Vermont ad agency to do this. It's not limiting if they want to, you know, do an ad campaign that has a social media aspect of it. That's fine. Go ahead and do that. But use, instead of just going straight to Facebook and giving them all of Vermonters money, let's go through your ad agency that you use for media buys and have them give that money to Vermonters first. It's like a buy local, but just in a different aspect. It's really important to support local news on a lot of different levels. Also, I understand that we don't need to be giving tax breaks or anything like that to support one industry over another, because it's all really important. But this is an elegant way to get that money to where it needs to go. without causing problems for the departments themselves, and so that Vermonters really are getting that support and benefiting in the long run, all of us, from having robust local news coverage. So there are two exceptions. One is tourism dollars, because we already live here and like it. So we don't need to be encouraged to come here some more because we're here. So tourism dollars can be spent elsewhere, advertising dollars, and also for jobs. If a lot of, like, a great example would be our state parks. A lot of their employees are, seasonal and come here from other places. We would not want to prevent people from coming here, especially since sometimes when people get a job from out of state and come here, they want to stay, which is great and what we want. So that's the gist of the bill. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh, it's H-244. Thank you. That should have been the first thing I said. Okay, fine.
Any other questions?
I should tell you, it was voted out of committee 7-4-0.
Great, thank you. All right, next up, we have Representative Wood, who's going to give us an update on a committee bill that I think now has a number on emergency housing. Oh, and you don't need this. Sorry, you don't need this. You
Okay,
don't
I didn't think so. Okay, Teresa Wood from Waterbury, House Human Services. Just going to give you an update on H91. It's a strike all amendment. We hope to be voting it out Wednesday or Thursday. It'll probably be on the floor next Tuesday would be my, oh, no, excuse me. It's going to go to appropriations. So it'll be sometime next week. So we are essentially creating a new program in the state that will combine the resources that is roughly around $80 million, give or take, of what's currently being spent in the GA Hotel Motel program and the Housing Opportunity Program within state government. And we are creating something that's going to be known as Vermont Hearth and VHearth, or however you want to call it, but it's the Vermont Homeless Emergency Assistance and Responsive Transition to Housing Program. It's actually going to be a program. None of the aforementioned things like the GA hotel is really just vouchers that are paid to hotels on behalf of individuals. So it is our intent to replace that. And the big news, which I know you all are starting to hear from your local shelters, is that this will be operated, and I'm going to say it's more facilitated by the community action agencies in the 5 regions. It'll be statewide, but covered in, there's 5 of them in the state. The whole state is covered by those regions. That is something that has shelter providers very nervous. And the one thing that I want to say is that they haven't seen the latest version of the bill, which just popped into or onto our page this morning. It is through a collaborative process that these resources will be allocated in the community. Controlling them in the community at this point in time is actually critical. The community is a place where decisions can be made faster. Decisions can be more flexible. The use of those resources can be much more flexible than only putting out a voucher for an individual. The other component of this is case management and other supportive services for individuals who find themselves at risk of homelessness or being homeless. And that is not something that is necessarily afforded to all individuals right now. So you'll find a bunch of definitions and all of that kind of stuff. It is composed of, as I said, supportive services, which includes the assessments and diversion service. When I say diversion, it means diversion from being homeless. So retaining your home, if a small investment or assistance can help you with that. Assistance with obtaining and retaining housing, including financial assistance, referrals to other services and supports, peer supported services, mediation with landlords, housing navigation, advocacy, and progress monitoring and follow along for the individual. It is voluntary, people, I know at some level want to require people to receive certain things as a component of assistance, but people do have free will in the state, as far as I know, last I checked, so it is voluntary. It does contain provisions for extreme weather event shelters. Those are intended to be very short-term in duration. They can be congregate, which is not in, total best practice, but as I said, they are intended to be very short. And then another provision for service and supports that might be longer. And we are concentrating, I think, where we will land on this is instead of what we call eligibility, we're talking about prioritization of eligible or prioritization of population. So it's not meant to exclude people. It's meant to say, okay, here's the top priority, and as the funds and resources permit, you can expand out. But I want people to clearly understand that the resources also should be used and are able to be used for preventative activities that we need to increase. For those of you who might have been hearing from your domestic violence friends, they do have a separate call out here because they have some specific federal rules and funding that they operate under. So they're still considered under VHARTH, but they do have a separate section that would be run by the domestic violence group. There's a section about what community action agencies are required to do. And there's also a section about what the department is, the Department of for Children and Families. And we say right up front that the department still has statewide responsibility for meeting the intent of this chapter. The intent of this chapter is to assist people who are homeless and to prevent homelessness. So I won't go into all this very specific details, but no. And as I said, we are still working on this bill in committee. We've been through several versions, and I'm sure there'll be another couple more before we're done.
Great. So I'm going to allow 2 questions because I want to get everyone to lunch and this bill is still being worked on.
Molly Burr, Brattleboro. Teresa, I know you received a letter from the Denver Public Shelter in Brattleboro, and you feel that these changes address our concerns?
Yes, that's why I said at the outset. I think that people hadn't seen the most recent version. There's fear by shelters that for some reason that they think that they're not going to be funded. I don't really understand the basis for that fear, but nonetheless, they have that fear. That is not the intent. That it's very clear in this latest draft that the funding process at the community level is a collaboration among community partners.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Territory from Morton. I'm assuming there'll be a fiscal note for this.
There is. The only money that is in this for FY26 coming up is $10 million in one-time funds. Because I should have said that this also requires a 1-year transition period for planning and implementation, both at the state level, at the community level, and together, because it's a major transformation, very significant transformation. And we would anticipate the administrative funds that are being used to administer these services at the state level would flow to the community as in addition to the direct service funds that I spoke of earlier.
What the conversion of how prevention legislation makes a lot of sense to me. In looking at DCF's data about the GA eligibility participation, we have a sense of the scale of how much larger the grows by when we add prevention into it.
Well, I think that it's probably a good idea to make sure people understand that there are prevention activities that happen now by community action and other community partners out there. Vermont State Housing Authority has a whole rental arrears program that is unfortunately running out of money in September. So there's prevention work out there now, but it's not necessarily as flexible with the resources that we have as it could be. So We have kind of like a hammer. We use a hammer right now, which is you got one option. Here's your hotel voucher and go to the hotel voucher. When really, it's possible that a few $100s, paid to your sister for a few months might enable you to stay there for the extra utility and food costs that it's costing to have you be there. So that's the kind of thing that can happen at the local level that really at state level is very difficult to achieve.
Great, thank you. Again, sorry if I didn't allow questions. Please see Teresa if you have any more. Our last one is Representative Granning to talk about H 342, an act relating to protecting the personal information of certain public servants, which will be on the floor tomorrow, I believe.
Yes, on the floor tomorrow. I'm gonna apologize in advance if my stomach growls louder than my voice.
The faster you talk, the faster you eat.
I'm gonna be really quick. 342 is Daniel's law, based in Daniel's law, which passed in New Jersey, when a judge's 20-year-old son was murdered in their family home because somebody came to attack the judge. So what we're trying to do here is to set up provisions for folks who are doing public service roles like judges, like probation officers, folks in the court systems, to give them an opportunity to have their information held as private and not just shared with anybody who wants it at any point. We very clearly set who is covered, giving them the right to non-disclosure and defining what their protected information is, their name, their address, their primary phone number, social security number, basic information that shouldn't be given out to anybody or available on websites where you can pay 99 cents and get that information. We also put in there sorry, really hungry. A way for if one of these people who has requested their information to be held private to have the ability to still do business. And if they give that business their approval, then that business can go through whatever businesses they need to get the business done for them. So that exception is written into this law. This is designed to work, not designed to stop business from happening. And then there are 30 days after their request for non-disclosure of their information for that business that could disclose the information to comply. And if they don't comply, then there's a penalty in the bill. So that's the vote was 7-4. So not straight party line vote. So there were a lot of discussions about more people should be covered. How do we make sure business can do business? All of those things. We really think we did a good job making this work for Vermont. Because anytime you take a law from another state, you have to make it work within the laws that we have here.
Yeah, great. Any questions? Everyone's hungry. Wonderful. Thank you again. Any questions? Reach out to leadership or someone on the committee.